The year is 2023, and it is when Magic the Gathering will change fundamentally forever. While we are mere weeks away from Phyrexia All Will Be One, it has been revealed by none other than Mark Rosewater himself that major changes to Magic the Gathering are coming with the final chapter in the Phyrexian saga, March of the Machines. What's particularly interesting about this is that Rosewater stated these changes are going to be both to the storyline and gameplay, the latter of which implies anything from a new card type to perhaps even changes how the game itself is played. Something that hasn't happened since the old 6th edition, major gameplay rules overhaul that eliminated damage on the stack, as well as changes such as the elimination of mana burn, etc. So what could it mean? What could be happening? Well, I have my own theories as well as some other theories to what else we might be seeing in 2023, the way that these changes might affect other parts of the game. After all, every great decision creates ripples, like a huge boulder dropped in a lake. The ripples merge, rebound off the banks in unforeseeable ways. The heavier the decision, the larger the waves, and oh God, Doctor Who! The Doctor Who Commander decks are coming out in 2023, and the Lord of the Rings modern set, and all right, but that's inevitable. Let's talk about what we don't already know is going to happen. Prepare yourselves, as this video is presenting the professor's preposterous yet still pretentious portents of prognostication. Predictions delayed only slightly due to my prolonged procrastination. But first, a quick word about this video. This video is brought to you by Keeps, a subscription men's healthcare service for hair loss prevention. Do you like this outfit that I'm wearing? I'm rather fond of the combination of colors and patterns and textures that I chose. Now, not everyone has to dress this way. It's how I like to dress because it's how I like to present myself to the world. Just in that there is nothing right or wrong about having long hair, short hair, balding hair, or being completely bald. It's about how you want to present yourself. Unfortunately, Mother Nature sometimes is a lot more difficult to deal with than picking out a wardrobe. That is where Keeps comes in. Did you know that 2 out of every 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they're 35? Well, the best way to prevent hair loss is to do something about it while you still have that hair. And that's exactly where Keeps comes in, because Keeps is just the generic versions of FDA-approved medications for hair loss, which makes it more affordable. Best of all, with Keeps, you can get treated from home. Get recommended the right hair loss treatment plan for you, and then have Keeps delivered right to your door. Safe, easy, and best of all, super affordable. And even more so if you head on over to Keeps.com/Tolarian, because you'll receive 50% off your first hair loss treatment. That's KEEPS.com/Tolarian. Choose to wear your hair however you like, just like the clothes you like, and use Keeps as a tool to help you do so. Thank you, Keeps, for sponsoring this video. So what are these major changes that I think we're going to be seeing in 2023? Well, if they are indeed changes to both the storyline and the actual gameplay of Magic the Gathering, I think there will be some kind of thematic link between them. In other words, the storyline changes might serve as a kind of explanation as to why this major change in how we play Magic the Gathering has happened. So let's start with that storyline, and I'm going to draw your attention to this now infamous imagery of legendary creatures from some of Magic the Gathering's planes fighting alongside one another, as well as planeswalkers against the Phyrexian incursion. This is really exciting in and of itself because legendary creatures do not travel between planes, at least not in any recent story. Only planeswalkers can traverse the blind eternities, and this is a very hard rule that has only had exceptions such as old lore that featured interplanar portals, as well as interplanar ships and things like that. Even in the current story, where there is a functioning interplanar portal, which is how the Phyrexians are going between planes, it's not easy. In each storyline in which one of the Phyrexian praetors went to another realm, they were nearly killed in doing so. Their flesh literally melted off their bodies and only barely able to recover and take root on that new plane. So we have always had this very hard rule that, with rare exception, only planeswalkers can safely travel between planes, and even when there is some kind of way, like a planar portal that we currently have in the story, it's still very, 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 very hard and dangerous for a non-planeswalker to do so. And I think that is what is going to change. We are not going to witness an Infinity War sort of moment where just here in March of the Machines, they figure out a way to bring in all these legendaries to fight against the Phyrexians and win the day, but rather, this will be the start of something new, namely legendary creatures traveling between planes. Now, the overwhelming theory on this is that the seed of the world tree from Kaldheim that Tybalt stole is going to be used to create a kind of interplanar bridge or connection between planes so that legendary creatures need not traverse the blind eternities, but use an already established in-story system of being able to connect the different planes in the same way that the different realms of Kaldheim are connected. And I'm going to go right ahead and admit this is probably what's going to happen. That's my reluctant prediction, is that we're going to see that happen. I really wish it were something else. I really wish that they just made it so that there were interplanar potions and portals and vehicles more readily available, more easily accessible, so that certain legendary creatures with access, with skill, would be able to travel between the planes. Because what really disappoints me about this world tree theory is that it's kind of doing away with the multiverse. It's combining the multiverse into one shared universe where there are connective tissues between what was previously completely different dimensions, essentially. And I really like Magic the Gathering's multiverse. That's been the big thing about it, is this infinite worlds of infinite possibilities. Each one is different than the other, and the idea that instead we're getting a singular realm that just has really different parts to it. You know, you go to the north, you're in Innistrad, you go to the south, you're in Ixalan, whatever. I feel it kind of takes away something, but I do think that's where we're headed. Why, though, are we headed that way? We're headed that way because of the changes that we want to see in terms of Magic's gameplay. And the change in terms of Magic's gameplay is that we want to de-emphasize the Planeswalker, perhaps even revise Planeswalker cards in Magic to put a new emphasis on legendary creatures. Why? Because it's all about Commander now, and the legendary creatures are what you need to have a Commander. While there have been several Planeswalkers that you can run as Commander, the truth of the matter is that the argument over making Planeswalkers legal in Commander has long since been lost. It's not going to happen. There are myriad reasons why not, but regardless of your personal opinion on whether or not Planeswalkers should universally be allowed as Commander, the truth of the matter is that pretty much since War of the Spark, Planeswalker cards haven't been the driving force of Magic the Gathering anymore. Let's face it used to be that a Planeswalker card was a guaranteed chase item. It was something that even in the worst case scenario was worth a significant amount of cash, probably had a strong effect on the game state, and was what sold packs. The idea of a set without Planeswalkers was absolutely unheard of. But have you seen Planeswalkers lately? It shocks me how many Planeswalkers are worth a couple of bucks each. Aside from that infamous Tybalt in Avacyn Restored, this was unheard of, with even the worst of Planeswalkers commanding a handsome price. People collected Planeswalkers. People got back into Magic because of Planeswalkers. I would even argue that the creation of the Planeswalker card is something that brought Magic the Gathering to a new echelon of sales and popularity. But today, I think that that's waned. I think Wizards of the Coast overprinted them, relied on them too heavily, made them, well, common instead of mythic. And I think they want to do something about that. I think they want to save the idea of a Planeswalker card, but change it into something that is compatible with Commander. And I also think they want to shift the driving force of sets from those 1 to 2 Planeswalkers per set to something such as the legendary creatures that can be your Commander. And so I think Planeswalkers are going to be depowered again in the storyline with that growth of the world tree and become literally little more than legendary creatures. I think they're going to become legendary cards. Yes, they're already technically legendary. Planeswalker, you know what I mean. They're not going to be I think they're doing away with the Planeswalker card type or revising it heavily into essentially what legendary creatures are today, but with a little twist. I think Wizards of the Coast wants to have its cake and eat it too. It knows that Planeswalker cards have been an incredible symbol and driving force of Magic the Gathering, and so it wants to keep Planeswalkers in the game, but it wants to change how Planeswalker cards function. Namely, it wants to essentially make them legendary creatures, which is what I believe is going to happen. Perhaps not making them exactly the same as a legendary creature, but rather creating a kind of legendary creature plus. Imagine a legendary creature printed today where it had loyalty counters and similar Planeswalker abilities, but it was at its essence a legendary creature, subject to all the rules of a legendary creature and, most importantly, able to function as commander. By making this change and coupling it with the emphasis on legendary creatures traveling the planes, Wizards of the Coast is essentially going to merge the two ideas. You might start to see in a new set on Theros a Kamigawa legendary who has traveled there for some reason in the storyline. Now that's still a card that can be your commander, and there's all of this story emphasis on it, and people are going to go nuts. Or you might see a favorite Planeswalker, only they are essentially a legendary creature in terms of function, even though the style and look might still be similar to what we know of Planeswalker cards, and you'll be able to run that as your commander as well. Again, it's a home run for both as far as WotC is concerned, especially with commander being the main way that people play this game. And I think this change is going to be a major step towards the difficulty that we encountered where certain cards would or would not interact with Planeswalkers, whereas they're just going to be legendary creatures now. And so instead of attacking an opponent to reduce loyalty, you simply target them as you would any other creature. I, for one, will be very happy if that by itself is the case, because I see no reason why a Doomblade shouldn't kill any Planeswalker on the field today, and I'm hoping with these changes, it will. Now, my next prediction is about gameplay as well, but rather than a new type of card or a dramatic change to a type of card, it's a type of card that we've seen before, often enjoy, and I think we're going to see a lot more of. Why? The answer is still Commander. Experimental and dramatic new card designs are essential in keeping the game of Magic fresh. While the primary game plan of reducing each other's life totals to 0 should of course remain the core component of the game, it's important to occasionally inject cards that turn this formula on its head. And that's why my third prediction for 2023 is more alternate win conditions on cards. Since Thassa's Oracle's debut in 2020, one thing has been certain. Cards with alternate win conditions have a viable home in Commander. And if the emphasis is not only on making cards for Commander, but keeping Commander healthy and diverse, then absolutely I think we're going to dive into that idea of the alternate win condition being a new recurring card in Magic sets. And you know what? Even since Thassa's Oracle, we've seen an additional 9 alternate win condition cards printed. Cards like Strixhaven Stadium, Vorpal Sword, Triskaidekaphile, and Halo Fountain, while no means game-breakingly powerful, are still beloved by so many Magic the Gathering players simply because they give them another avenue for deck building and victory that isn't the same as usual. And I predict we will see this trend continue with a lot more alternate win condition cards printed in 2023. In fact, in the same way that every Magic the Gathering set is guaranteed to have several Planeswalkers in it in the past, I think it's now guaranteed to have at least one alternate win condition per set. And I think we're going to see this both in standard sets as well as Commander products. Perhaps you will see it in enough abundance that with so many floating around, the Commander Rules Committee will finally admit that Coalition Victory deserves to be unbanned, and that Dockside Extortionist probably should be banned. That's another video. What's my next prediction? Well, it's less a change and more a lack of change. You see, a very common and very justified feeling amongst Magic players lately has been that Hasbro has been printing too many products and too many cards. But when confronted with these concerns that it devalues the product, the company's response in a recent fireside chat was to say there is no evidence that cards are being overprinted. Well, my next prediction is that there will be no slowdown of products in 2023 or 2024. Your voices have been heard, but as is often the case, Wizards of the Coast disagrees with you. And thus I predict Hasbro's pattern of overprinting and churning out product after product will not cease this year or next year. it's just going to continue. Get used to it. It's the new normal. Now, there's actually a lot to say about this, and in my positives of 2022, I said that I liked how many legendary creatures were printed in the year because it meant that there's a diversity of options for building commander decks, and that what I hated about the shift to commander was that I had often found myself sitting down to see the same overpowered commanders game after game again and again, and with so many new legendaries and so many different diverse strategies for deck building, I had found that there were a lot of choices for myself and a lot of new faces at the table every time I sat down to shuffle up and play. But there's a huge difference between, wow, we got a whole bunch of new legendaries this year, that's a great thing, and there are too many products and product fatigue. I don't want to go into great detail about this, but I think the reasoning that this product is just not for you, only buy and engage with the products you're interested in, is a flawed one, because to be frank, in order to determine that a product is not for me, I still have to engage with it. I need to look at the cards in that set, determine if they are cards that I need for how I play Magic the Gathering, and maybe even start to feel that even when they are cards I might put in my deck, I no longer can afford to keep up with quite so many releases. Certainly, if nothing else, it's taxing on my mental space to be evaluating such a huge increase in products and cards. But all of that is irrelevant because it's not going to stop, and Wizards of the Coast flat out told us so. They said there is no overprinting of cards and product, and thus this is going to continue. It's just the way of Magic now. But with all that being said, there is an upside to this prediction. You see, I do not think Hasbro's printers will be the only ones staying busy this year, with 30th Anniversary Edition being the straw that broke the camel's back on the proxy debate. I also predict that at-home card printing and fan-made proxies will continue to find wider and wider acceptance in all casual and non-tournament settings. You know, I'd like to make one final note on this topic and remind folks that Hasbro and the higher-ups making the decisions leading to product and printer fatigue are very different from the game designers on the ground level. Game designers are so often simply doing their best to make Magic the greatest game it can be under any circumstances. Most of them started as fans and players of this game, and they are passionate still about it being the best it can be, about delivering to you the best experience they can deliver. Always remember that if you have ire with the direction that Magic the Gathering is going, or any game that you love and enjoy is going, it's important not to direct that ire towards those who simply have no say in these higher-up corporate decisions and are just trying to make the game for you. But those are, of course, just my predictions, and now I want to hear from you. What do you think are these major storyline and gameplay changes that are going to happen in 2023 with March of the Machines, and are you looking forward to them? Do you just wish Magic would stay the same forever and ever and ever and never ever change, put damage back on the stack, bring back mana burn, hashtag it, or don't? But either way, let me know in the comments below. Thanks once again to Keeps for sponsoring this video. Remember, you are super sexy, whether you have short hair or long hair, whether you're bald or balding or not. But if you do want to take action against hair loss, then you can go to keeps.com/Tolarian to receive 50% off your first hair loss treatment. That's keeps.com/Tolarian. Thank you, Keeps, for sponsoring this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
I have given $50 to build a deck with, including Commander.
I've brought Safara Sky's Blade.
I'm playing Hidetsugu, the Varying Chaos.
I'm playing Gorex, the Tomb Shell.
My deck costs only $30. What do you folks say? We shuffle up and play. I will tap for mana and play an Assault Suit.
Yeah. Oh. How come you know so much about Command? Oh, right.
Play Knight Incarnate, but I'm gonna do its port Invoke.
Ooh. Knight Incarnate.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
How do you feel about lethality?
How would it be more than feeling lethality?